YouTube. I've escaped the vortex that is London and M25, and so I can now spend some time telling you about my day today. Today is the Friday, the 7th of July. And I've had a pretty good day, pretty easy day, pretty lucrative day. So let me tell you all about it. I woke up this morning after tramping last night. I didn't make it in the end all the way to the depot. I was about half an hour away from High Wycombe before I thought I'd better stop and park in a lay-by. And so I woke up, I don't know what time it was because I didn't look at my clock watch. I just laid in my camp bed until I felt like getting up. It felt like quite a long time, probably an hour or two. I thought I'll just wait until I'm actually ready to get up rather than trying to force myself out of bed. By the time I'd got myself out and ready, I noticed that the time was 10:05 when I was on the road. So quite a late start, but I thought I would use it as an opportunity to experiment about the time, so starting that late and see where the hell today goes. And it was, in the end, it's been okay. If I'd gone earlier, it wouldn't have made much difference, I don't think. So I got myself to High Wycombe and offloaded my collections from last night. And to remind you, they were pickups from Worcester, Tewkesbury and Gloucester. And so I then got that job finished and off-site at 11:10. And then my only job really was to get myself into central London. There was 2 central London pickups and a North Horsham pickup. So I did incorrectly say yesterday it was Chiswick. Chiswick is one of the central London ones. Also, it incorrectly said yesterday it was 30 odd miles, but it wasn't. It's more like 120 miles today. So I went into London, did my first pickup. The handballing wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I could park quite close and it wasn't too much. And so I'd finished at my first stop at 1:45. Made my way straight across from there to, that was an SW5 postcode. Then I went to a W4 postcode. And obviously, both going into London and coming out of London, I was just crawling. It was really slow traffic. Really hot day today as well. So actually the handballing was quite good because it was getting me out of my hot van into a cool environment. Anyway, I got to the second London location and picked up less items than I thought I was going to pick up from there. And I finished there at 1:20. And then I made my way towards North Horsham, and it was about an hour and a half's journey. So I got there, picked up just past 3 o'clock, and then my sat nav was telling me it was 2 hours to get from there back to High Wycombe. It was 55 miles. It was basically because the M25 was standstill, as it always is. So I just patiently got myself, followed the sat nav. I couldn't really see an alternative route, so I just thought I'd just have to be patient and get in the queue along with everyone else. So I took myself off around the M25, got to High Wycombe. Before I went into the office though, I went to Asda and I picked up a couple of boxes of milk chocolate biscuits. And you'll be pleased to know they're not for me to consume, because I'm not doing that anymore. What they are for were a little thank you for the shipper that's given me all this work. So I went, offloaded my items at their depot, and then popped into the office, gave a box of the biscuits to the office and a box of biscuits to the warehouse. And I slipped them on my business card so they could remember my name, just in case they'd forgotten it. I think they knew it anyway, but it's always worth doing. I've got loads of cards, don't know what to do with them, so I'll do that. And that was really nice. I felt really nice by doing that. When I had the idea about doing it, I thought, yeah, do that. Get yourself there in time so no one's gotten home, and just do a little something for them. Show your appreciation. And yeah, so that was my day. Really quite simple. I am now on my way home. I didn't bother looking at any jobs in CX today. I just want to get myself out of the London vortex, back home, and get a cold drink. So I'll give you my stats for today, and then also, because it's Friday, the stats for the week. It's been a short week for me this week work-wise, but I think it's still interesting to see what I've done. And on my notes on my YouTube videos, I have started to specify whether my jobs are CX or non-CX jobs, because I think that's important to realise, and I'll come to that in a moment. Why? So first of all, my stats then for this week. First of all, for today. First of all, sorry. So for today, when I get home, I will have worked a total of 10 hours and 3/4. My mileage today is 262 miles, 262. My average fuel pence per mile this week has jumped up to 18.5 pence. But that's because of an anomaly about how I work it out. I've got 3 readings for my fuel this week. I did 3 fill-ups, but one of the fill-ups was the one I did at full price. And so because I work out my average just as an average across the 3 fill-ups, my average will be much more like 14.5, 15 pence, because of the 3 fill-ups, one was about 24 pence an average, which has brought my average for the week up. But I thought I'd leave it at that, because at the very least it's being under cautious with my income rather than over cautious. Sorry, being over cautious with my income rather than being too optimistic. So these figures are probably a little bit lower than I really have earned. But I wasn't. Just in case of full transparency, that's why it's 18.5 pence. It'll go down next week from my average, because I won't be making the same mistake again next week. So with that average, I've spent £48 and 48 pence on fuel today, and my gross earnings today were the 2 non-CX jobs, the £165 I got for the Worcester pickups, and the £225 I got for the London pickups. So that's £390 in total, and that means my net earnings today, after fuel, is £342. So let me take you now smoothly to my weekly summary. So this week I've worked 3 days. The total mileage I've done this week of those 3 days is 1,342 miles, 1342. My fuel costs are £248.31, but bear in mind that's based on an average of 18.5 pence per mile, which is overestimating it, but I'm going to leave it at that figure. And my gross earnings before fuel was 1,320, and that was made up of 3 routes that I got from my regular shipper and 2 CX jobs that I picked up on the day. So 5 jobs in total. And my net earnings after the fuel costs are taken into account are £1,072, 1072. My pence per mile for this week is the highest it's ever been. After fuel, remember, I've earned 79.86 pence per mile. And over those 3 days, I averaged after fuel £357.23 per day, which is over £100 more than my target. So obviously I'm very pleased about that, and it's because I put a lot of hours in on 2 of the days. Now, I want to reiterate, for those people who are perhaps thinking, wow, that's a good income, that was just 2 CX jobs and 3 jobs from a shipper that pays me a good rate, and that rate includes handballing charges. And I was thinking about this today, and I thought about a video that Andy P had done, and I'll put a link in the description of the video I'm referring to. About a month ago, Andy P put a video on about the CX's pence per mile calculations and why it's misleading for drivers. And I was thinking, I found another reason why it's misleading, because all of my jobs that I get given from the regular shipper are put through the CX system. They don't go out to bid, so no one else can have them. They just get assigned to me directly. And so if you have shippers using the CX platform as a way of communicating jobs to drivers that they trust, rather than as a bidding platform, which is also what it's used for, then they're going to end up putting jobs on that are probably quite fairly priced. You know, they're at a good rate. And I'm guessing that the CX system doesn't distinguish between those jobs and jobs that are bid upon. So actually, their pence per mile is going to be inflated because of the jobs that are put on just directly to drivers. And the other thing about inflated jobs is all of my jobs include the handballing cost. But there is no way of separating out handballing costs from your bids on the CX system. You can separate out fees and tolls and ferries, but not handballing waiting times. So again, every time a job is sold with extra charges put on for waiting time or for handballing, the CX system is going to think that's all pence per mile rate, which is obviously is not. So I'm not going to go into all the other things that Andy P said, because go see his video. But these are extra things to support what he was saying in his video, that I would absolutely agree that the pence per mile calculation is very misleading. CX as a company, the Transport Exchange Group and the CX app, they're not lying to you, but they are not being very forensic and thorough with their data, and they're giving a misleading impression of what drivers can earn. And I think that's very disappointing. I'm not surprised, but it's disappointing. And the thing that's really disappointing is they're charging extra for that service. And I think that's where, for me, it becomes a bit unthinkable, really. They do know what they're doing. They're not stupid. And they know that they're inflating prices to sell more of their product. And I think they think that most drivers don't see this. And I think they're wrong. Okay. That's the end of that bit. I want to talk now about some of those bits and pieces. The first thing is a big thank you. I've had 5 more subscribers since last night. At some point this is going to die off. Every day I get surprised by how many more subscribers I have. I really do appreciate. I can't really word it in any other way. I'm trying to acknowledge it on a daily basis, and I'm trying to sound sincere, because I am sincerely grateful for anyone who subscribes. It is quite a big deal, really, for someone in my position. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to now spend some time talking about something that's close to my heart, and I'm not sure how much I'll get through it, but I'll just start to talk and we'll see where we go. And I'll give you some context first. So I read a book which you may have heard of. It's quite a famous book. Actually, to be fair, I read 1/3 of a book. I read about 3 or 4 chapters of a book called 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And in that book, it does tell you or advise you to create what they call a personal mission statement. And this would have been about a year and a half ago when I read this, and I did it. I did create a personal mission statement, and that was the end of my interaction with that book, because I got distracted and did something else. So I'm not going to talk any more about the book, but just telling you where the idea came from. But I just ran with that idea, and it became something that I really valued. And I want to share that journey with you now. What I did, I spent about 8 months of my life just noting down things that were important to me, or the way that I looked at the world or felt about the world, to try and coalesce in my head some threads that were true and consistent about my character. And I literally did do it over about 8 months. And by the end of that time, I had a long list of just notes, raw notes that I'd collated. Some of it was really important and really fundamental to who I am, and some of it was trivial and not really important at all, but all led to better understanding about who I am. And off the back of that, I then spent some time creating a document, a physical document that I printed out, and it's my mission statement. And don't worry about the term mission statement, because it will mean different things to different people, and it doesn't really mean much in this context. So I'm just going to tell you the bit about it that's important for this conversation, which is, in that mission statement, I defined my values. There are 4 values that I defined off the back of this process, which I worked out were my core values, and they are things that I put down. They're concrete ideas that I put down, and they are what I use to help steer me in my decision making. So I'm going to tell you what they are first of all, with a little bit of a context, and then I'm going to tell you how I use it. So my first, and also they're in order. So my four values are in priority order. So the first one is my biggest priority value, the one I hold most dear to my heart. And the fourth one is important to me, but it's not necessarily. If I had to choose between, if they became in conflict, I would choose the one that's higher in the list than the one that's lower in the list. So my first value is I want to show kindness and empathy. I want to avoid hurting people. My second value is I want to demonstrate personal integrity by being responsible for my own actions. And that means being trustworthy, reliable, honest and open. My third value is demonstrating an optimistic and growth mindset. And my fourth value is supporting and engaging in relationships where there's an equal power dynamic. So let me give you a bit of extra information about those. The first one is about trying to avoid hurting people, and it's top of my list because I want to be someone who's thought of as being a kind person. Now there's a massive flaw, I've worked out there's a massive flaw in that, and let me try and explain what that flaw is. I don't know people very well, so in my head I would want to be a kind person, but kindness is something that you do, it's an act. I can't just think I'm kind and then I am. I have to demonstrate it by doing kind things. This is where it falls down. In my quite long life, whenever I've tried to do what I think is the kind thing, often it doesn't get the response that I expect it to get. Often it gets the opposite response. And this is my point. Kindness is in the eye of the beholder. It doesn't matter if I want to be kind, if I try to be kind. I'm not the one who's deciding that. It's the people around me that decide that. So if the people around me have preconceptions about who I am, about my motivations, about my character, it doesn't matter how kind I'm going to be. It's always going to be coloured by their expectation of me, and to be fair, the history of me. So what I've found is it's a value that is internal for me, but I can't guarantee that I can actually do it because it depends on the person I'm with. And because of my issues with understanding people and their motivations, I've learnt I can't guarantee that I can be kind. I can try, and the closest I've come to is I think I'm going to try and not hurt people rather than try to be a kind person, which is kind of the same thing. If I can avoid hurting people, then that's probably the best thing I can hope to do. And obviously, in the same way, I don't judge that, it's other people that judges that. I can try my best. This is where I use it. So that's the background. This is where I use it. And I'm not saying, please don't think that I'm trying to say I'm great. I'm not. I'm just human. But what I do is I use these values to help me make decisions. So if I've done something that is empirically unkind or hurtful, because it does happen. You know, I have emotions, I have short temper, I'm tired, you know, I might miscommunicate or misjudge the situation. What my value does for me is it makes me realise, right, remember that your value was not to do that, and that means I can quickly correct that behaviour. I can either apologise or explain myself. And the idea of having that value in my mind is that if I've always got it in the forefront of my mind that my value is to be kind, if I train myself to think like that over and over again, I'm hoping that eventually I can avoid hurting people in the moment I'm communicating with them or acting with them, rather than having to go back afterwards and correct errors. So at the moment, I might do something wrong, and I instantly know that was wrong. But sometimes it's hard to just immediately, sort of, because of your ego or because of your self-esteem, to immediately say I'm wrong and change that. I'm going to give you a small example of that happened today. Very small example, but it is how I use this on a daily basis. I went to my drop-off this morning, and my items were very heavy, and I had a long day, looking forward to a long day in London, and I was wanting to get in and out of the depot as soon as possible. And my pallet that I was going to use, I was going to get a pallet down to put my items on, and the forklift driver there said, can you not use that pallet, can you use the one at the back there, it's already started. And my instant reaction, without thinking about it, was, oh, I can't do that because they're too heavy, I can't get back there. And he said, oh, okay then. And then I walked to my van, and then I thought, that was the wrong thing to say. This is a service industry. This is a customer. You're working. You're self-employed. You have to look after your customers. Every person you deal with is your customer. So I didn't say anything to the forklift driver. I just got in my van and just steadily and slowly piled the stuff up onto the correct pallet. I had to get myself between lots of other items, and it was a bit awkward. But I just did it slowly and steadily, and he saw that I did that. I didn't need to go up to him and apologise and say, I'm doing it now. He knew I did it. And so in that example, it took me seconds to realise he'd made the wrong decision in the moment. And therefore, because of the values that I'm trying to live to, that helps me to realise, just change it. Don't make a big deal of it, just do the thing he asked you to do. So I hope that makes some sense, that in an ideal world I'd have gone to him, absolutely mate, no problem, as soon as he asked me. In my old life I would have gone, oh yeah, I can't stand this, stop giving me a hassling time, I'll do what I like, I want to get off this site. So I'm better than I would have been, and I'm not quite where I want to be. Right, I'm going to stop there, hope that makes some sense. My next value is about demonstrating personal integrity, and I think this is reasonably simple because I've put it on, I've defined what it means. It basically means I'm responsible for my actions, no one else is. If something goes wrong, it's probably my fault, or if it's not my fault, I need to deal with it. I control my own behaviour. I can't blame other people for me having a bad day. I'm in control of my own actions. And also part of that is, what do I mean by personal integrity? And I defined it by these 4 words. It's about me being trustworthy. So if I say I'm going to do something, when you get to know me, you should expect me to do, oh, it's done then, right? He knows I want to do that. I'll leave it in his hands. It's done. You can trust I'm going to do it. I'll be reliable. That means I'll turn up on time. It's similar to trustworthy, but it's like I will do what I say I will do. And honest and open are kind of together, but I use the phrase together. To me that means if I'm thinking something, I should try and tell someone that that's what I'm thinking, not try and pretend it's something else. And it's really hard. You might upset somebody, and this is where I find it hard to deal with people. And I found ways around that with people that know me. But going back to my value, if I stick to the value of being open and honest, there's a situation where I find myself thinking I can't say this because it's embarrassing or it's untrue, then my value kicks in and says, remember, you want to be open and honest. And so I always, it brings me back to, right, that's what you got to do. Forget trying to get away with it, forget trying to be dishonest, tell the truth. And in the context of this job, when if you've heard all my videos, you may remember that really bad day I had when my pallet came loose off it. The load came loose off the pallet because my strap came off. I don't know how it happened, but it did. Now I am responsible. First of all, I'm responsible for that. I didn't obviously mean it to happen, but it's my responsibility. It's on my van. I should have strapped it better. I'll learn from that. So the first thing is I'm responsible for my own actions, and what goes wrong is my responsibility. So I didn't try and blame the traffic or blame the strap. It was, I've got to tell the shipper this. The second thing is I had to tell the shipper what happened, because that's about being open and honest. It was embarrassing for me to say it, but I felt that I had to say it, and that I wouldn't have. In the past, I would have tried to get away with it and not mentioned it and hoped I'll get away with it. But here, that's not about being a professional, reliable person. I have to be open and honest. And if it means I get into trouble, then so be it. I'm accountable for my own actions. And so far, nothing but good has come from that. I feel much better about myself, feel more at ease about myself, and I think it's about being who I am. I feel much more comfortable being that kind of person. I hope that makes some sense. I'm not going to, at this point, I think I've talked for way too long in this video. I'm going to perhaps address my other points in my next video next week. There's too much here to just say in one video. But I'll go to the other things I want to say on Monday. I am working Monday late on. I'm going to finish off, take my daughter's things up to university in the morning. I'm going to do the pickup for Liverpool and Crew in the afternoon. So I'll do a video on Monday to sort of finish that off. But obviously in the meantime, if anything I've said is of interest, or if you've got any questions, particularly about what I've said so far, I'm really happy to answer them. I've had some really good interaction so far with this channel, so I really do appreciate any comments you'd make and that interaction. So yes, thank you, and I think this will be a kind of a two-parter in terms of my mission statement and values. Okay, thank you very much for listening to me ramble on again. What have you learned today?